we tape Florida Report usually around like 10:30 in the morning, right before the show. And I knew I was going to talk to Miranda about voting in Florida because she just went and cast her vote in early voting in person. And so we're always like just gabbing, right, before we get started. And Nicole thankfully had started the record, even though we weren't recording the segment, because she captured this wonderful moment with my sister. This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Sick of fad diets that work for a couple months and then you gain all the weight back? Well, I'm down 37 pounds on the Eastside Weight Loss Clinic program, and I've kept that weight off for more than a year. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com.
I loved voting. I always get so hyped up when I go to the polls.
Hyped up, won't take it no more. Hyped up, won't.
And also, before we go live, I would like you ladies to know
You voted for Trump?
I voted for Donald Trump.
Why would you just tell us that on the air? Get recording. Get recording.
I am.
Okay. Oh, good. Oh, you're recording, so we captured that?
Yeah.
You little SOB. You see how excited we were? Too much fun. Had
I really
to play
didn't
that
think she was
for
going to
you.
say that when I kind of guessed it, but I didn't mean to take it away.
I know. So anyway, and then we had to start recording and talk about it. So let's get to our weekly segment, Florida Report.
It's not even controversial anymore.
People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.
Miranda. Wow, everyone. Yes, everyone. Well, we had a family, so we were recording before we were recording, and that wasn't part of the thing, so we played it anyway. There was a family group chat, and so I told Mom dropped in our DMs the other day on the show, and, you know, she's not a big fan of Trump, which is fine, Mother. Vote for who you want to vote for. And then she's like, would you elect Trump as your governor? And I was like, yeah, if the choices were Donald Trump and Bob Ferguson. And I said 3 of her 4 children would be voting for Donald Trump. What changed your mind? Because you were going to vote for the libertarian Chase Oliver.
Yeah, and I went in with my practice ballot. I printed it out. I had everything filled out except for the presidential one. That's the only one that I didn't even fill out on my practice ballot because, you know, I always like to vote libertarian because I always just want to give them the numbers because I would like to see America one day the sun rises and there's a 3-party option that's viable.
I agree.
So I've always just kind of given them the numbers. But the more I thought about it, you know, Chase Oliver is definitely not a step up for the libertarians. I think they probably could have done way better. And as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, you know, had it been somebody else that I think that I liked a little more, I probably would have been gung-ho, like, this is what I'm going to do. But the fact that I kept thinking about it made me realize, like, you're kind of like throwing away the vote for myself, not even for everybody's excuse of why elections don't go their way, but like for myself, I just didn't feel that good voting for him. So I went back in my head and I thought, when was the last time you made a ton of money with your business? And it was when Donald Trump was president. So that is pretty much what tipped my scale. Was the last time. I think the most successful year of my having a business was in 2019. Yeah. And so I was like, who was in power then? Whether that has anything to do with it or not, I don't know, but that's what I went with.
And how do you feel?
I actually feel pretty good. You know, I mean, I think that I would love to see some different options regardless, but if this is where we are right now, I think I definitely weighed out my options all the way up till pen hit paper. It wasn't something that I had made a decision on a long time ago. So I feel good about it.
Are you ready for what our mother will say when she finds out?
No, I think that she kind of already knows because I did talk to her this morning and we talked a little bit without me actually telling her who I voted for. So
oh, she'll be so disappointed in us. But that's all right, Mom. We're still going to take care of you when you get old, even as little deplorables. All your little deplorables will be there for you. So, so I was saying before we got started that like Florida voting is like a Washington Republican voter's wet dream, and people want to go to the polls. They don't want to. Nicole, I can say wet dream. It's fine. We're all adults here. Nicole's giving me the look of shame. So what is it like to vote in Florida?
I mean, it's in person, which is something I've always experienced. I've never done mail-in voting. I've lived here since I was 18. So I love going into the polls. I love seeing people actively showing up in person to vote. I was behind this older gentleman in line who was wearing a suit and a tie. And I know that he dressed up just to go vote because he had a little American flag bow tie on. And he asked me some questions about where I'm from and whatever, because I didn't speak Spanish, so they always ask you. And he's like, I just love seeing young people vote. And it just made me feel good being there. And the process was quick. I mean, early voting in Florida, I think there's like 36 locations around the county. You can show up to any of them during early voting. So there wasn't much of a wait. I think I waited 5 minutes in line before I got my ballot.
Smart.
Yeah, so I have voted on election day, and the lines are much longer, and you do have to go to your assigned precinct for those. So I figured I would early vote this year and just get it done with.
Yeah, it makes sense. So there are a couple of significant things that have made national news that are on the ballot in Florida that you had to make a decision on. You can tell us how you voted or not. There are amendments 1 through 4. I think 1, 3, and 4 are very interesting. Let's leave the most controversial for last. Amendment 1 has to do, we've talked about on the show before, with school board positions and whether they're partisan.
Correct. So this would basically be like, if you vote yes, they would make school boards like the elections partisan. If you vote no, they would keep, your political affiliation off the ballots during those elections. And I voted no on this because I just think school boards are already kind of this popularity contest in a way when you get down to it. So adding Republican and Democrat to it, to me, doesn't do the school board races any favors. I think it just creates more of division in a place that just people really need to be coming together and putting students' needs first. And I don't think that your party affiliation being announced has anything to do with that. It obviously affects, how your opinions are and stuff like that. But I just don't think it needs to be announced during these types of elections.
Yeah, I know you were struggling with that one when we talked about it on the show, and I think it just generally dissuades people from doing more research into candidates. I would like to see no one get to have a letter next to their name and have to make their argument across the board, so I like that one. All right, Amendment 3. We know that you've never smoked weed in Florida because it's absolutely not legal right now, so I know it's hard for you to really have a strong opinion on this one, Cheech, but Amendment 3 would legalize weed recreationally in Florida. Miranda, how do you vote?
I think that marijuana has a huge place in society to replace certain types of over-the-counter medicine, even prescription medicine. I do think a lot of people choose to smoke over drinking, which I think sometimes is just a better option in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of arguments for and against this. My biggest thing with this is whether or not people can grow their own weed. I think that that's true freedom. I think it allows you to control the substance that you're getting. There's just a lot to that. And this particular amendment doesn't really specify whether you can or you cannot. And both sides were arguing the wording in both directions. So I do think that the wording's a little vague, but I did vote yes because I do think even if it turns into big weed monopoly, it's a step in the right direction for people to take the criminalization part out of it and let people just kind of come home from work and smoke their weed. I just don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, and I know you haven't actually partook since you almost died, so our lungs are weed free as of this moment, right?
They are, and I think I do feel better without
there.
it. So for me, particularly knowing both sides of use and non-use, I'm healthier because I don't use it, but that's just because of my personal situation. But I do think that I just think that it's gotten a bad rap for too long. And the fact that it's even on the ballot is kind of showing that stigma around marijuana is kind of going away.
Yeah, and I think, there are I think young people getting addicted to it that is an issue, right? I mean, I had a couple college roommates who they barely functioned. All they did is smoke weed. And I'm like, so there are definitely, but there are people who are alcoholics too. And so it's sort of you're legalizing one poison and not the other. And it's now for the record, in case I ever run for office, yes, I have smoked weed before. And yes, I inhaled. I did. I have also done a couple marijuana gummies, which those are dangerous. Those are almost worse. You don't know what you're getting with those things. So just I air all my dirty laundry on this show so that if I ever run for anything, there are no secrets. All right. Amendment 4 is the really serious one, has to do with abortion. Take us through. And to me, this one's weird because it's really all in or all out. It's really strange. So talk about it.
Yeah, so this amendment would allow abortions up to fetal viability, which is 23 to 24 weeks. Currently, after 6 weeks in Florida, you cannot legally have an abortion. So that is a huge change there. It would also allow healthcare professionals to help you make decisions whether or not your health is at risk. That would be considered in allowing you to have abortions after fetal viability. And then also, it would require parental notification if a minor wanted to have an abortion. And I am pro-choice. I just think that these decisions should be left between a woman and their healthcare provider. I don't think that we should have this as like this big, talking point every year in elections. It's such a personal choice for everybody. I do, however, have issues with the wording being notifying parents rather than allowing for consent of parents. I think parents, obviously deserve to know, but I think they also deserve the chance to have a little bit more of a say in something like that with their child. So I struggled with this one a little bit. I think that it's the wording is pretty off to me, and I wish that they would have maybe rethought about some of that so that it didn't become such like a difficult decision. I mean, I ended up voting yes for it. I just think that there's a few things in that wording I wish that they would like specify and be a little bit more tuned into.
I guess I'm confused about the parental notification thing. So I thought it was that they didn't have to have consent from a parent. Is that
They
it?
don't have to have consent, but the parent has to be notified. So notification and consent are obviously two different words.
Standard. So you're saying you would prefer consent ahead of the procedure, or?
I would prefer parental consent.
Gotcha,
just because I just think that parents just have a right to be in charge of their minor kids' decisions. I really do. And that's probably coming from me being like older and looking at my past experiences in hindsight all over the board. You just get older and your ideas change. You see kids as, very capable individuals, but they also need guidance. And I just don't think the government is always the right place to find that guidance.
Yeah, I'm very curious how that one does, because 6 weeks to fetal viability is a huge jump for a red state. Ours is fetal viability here. We allow minors to do a lot of things without their parents knowing about it. So it's tricky. That one, I think, is just up in the air. I mean, it's one of the national issues races that I'm going to be most interested in. So, Miranda, good stuff today. Look at you little maggot.
No, all I gotta say is Trump better not
MAGAT.
disappoint me, because
Okay.
I think my biggest issue was like voting for him and then it just went downhill,
Oh,
So-
100%. Like, we will go. I'll march on the Capitol if Trump tries to stay. If the worst comes to fruition and they're saying he's going to be a dictator and he's not going to leave office, even though he left office the first time. Like, you really think at like, 80 or whatever, he's 80 something, that he's going to be like, I'm going to stay here. No, he wants to go back to his golf course. But okay, we'll all go and we'll march on the Capitol and we'll remove him if we need to. Fine.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Miranda, thanks so much. Have a fun conversation with Mother. Goodbye.
Thanks. Bye.
It's not even controversial anymore.
People know in Florida their freedoms are going to be respected.